Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Andrew Musgrove here. Hope you guys are doing well. Hopefully, the nerves aren't hitting you too hard ahead of Newcastle United's game against Everton on Sunday, the final game of the campaign, with the Magpies knowing a win would secure them Champions League football for next season. What a huge game it's going to be. We will have the match preview with John Gibson later this week and the view from the opposition as well. So watch out for them. As usual, this episode is sponsored by NordVPN. Do hit the link in the podcast description box and take advantage of an exclusive offer where you can sign up and get your plan, protect your devices, protect yourself, and support the podcast. And there's no risk because there's a 30-day money-back guarantee from Nord, which means you can get your money back if you're not impressed with the product. So do hit the link in the podcast description box. It's well worth your time of signing up, you're supporting the podcast, and you're keeping yourself safe as well. Today's episode is something that I want you guys to get involved in, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're listening on the audio-only channel, you want to get involved over email or over social media. And I'm going to pose a question, and I don't want you to be shy in your answer, whether you disagree, whether you agree. I want to hear all viewpoints on this. Should Newcastle United sign Abdoulaye Doucouré? What do you think? The midfielder has been released from Everton, although Everton wanted to keep him on. They offered him a new contract and he turned it down to pursue other opportunities. But I think that speaks volumes that Everton wanted to keep him on. Despite being 32, they still think he has something to offer. But he is now on the lookout for a new club. Could it be Newcastle United? I have to say, this is just me asking you guys a question. I haven't heard anything, and there's no hints or suggestions that Newcastle are indeed in the market for Doucouré. But I have to say, I don't think it's as daft as a suggestion as it may sound to some. I know it is a suggestion that will get people riled up. No doubt people are saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I will say, Liam Delap, ladies and gents, I do tend to get some of these things right. He's a talented player. I've always thought he's a talented player. I was a little bit good, actually, when he signed for Everton 5 years ago from Watford, £20 million he cost. I thought he could have done a job at Newcastle United, and he's gone on to prove to be a really quality Premier League midfielder. Yes, could have scored a few more goals. Yes, could have assisted a few more. But I think when you look at his all-round performance at Everton over the last 5 years, I think you can see why there's been such a love affair as his departure is announced. Now, at 32, he's coming to the end of his career, so this wouldn't be a long-term deal. Yeah, 18 months, 2 at most. His wages probably would be a bit of a red flag. The whispers are, and I have to again say that these are whispers, nothing confirmed, nothing on the record, but the whispers are that that deal he was offered at Everton, his demands were not met, which would suggest he is wanting big bucks. One last payout. Newcastle United, of course, if they went for someone like Doucouré, I think that they wouldn't want to be paying any more than 95 or £100,000 a week. I think even that might be pushing it slightly. You wouldn't want to be pushing your wage barrier too high, and you certainly wouldn't want to be putting them on par with the highest earners at the club. Your likes of Bruno, your likes of Tonali, and your likes of Joe Linton. You just wouldn't want that to be the case. If he was willing to take a little bit of a pay cut to bring his demands down, if he was willing to sign a deal at Newcastle United, knowing that he wasn't going to be first choice, that his role would largely be a bit part role, that he would be backup, that he would be there to build the depth into a squad, I think it would make a sense. I really do. Short-term deal, and it would help Newcastle United next season, hopefully playing in the Champions League when they want to go strong on 4 fronts, the 2 domestic cups, the Premier League and the Champions League. It would help Eddie Howe build a squad, because that's going to be key. As much as Eddie Howe needs 3-4 players to come in and start in the first team and really elevate the first team, he also needs 2 or 3 players to come in and help build that depth in the squad, because Newcastle United just do not have it. Injuries tend to be their worst nightmare. We've seen players missing in action this season. We saw during the Champions League campaign a couple of years ago how much, or was it last year? Time has flown. It was last year, wasn't it? We've seen how competing in so many competitions affected them, and injuries and suspensions and what have you. And Eddie Howe hasn't got the depth in the squad. If he did, we wouldn't be sitting here a few days before the game against Everton a little bit nervous, needing a win, because Newcastle United would already be over the line. They may have even finished second if Eddie Howe had the depth. Now, we know due to financial fair play, the squad have not been able to strengthen as much as they want. Hopefully this summer they will spend like they haven't done in previous windows, and I think they will do. I think they will give anyhow those 2 or 3 big name, big stars that he wants, that he needs. But also, I have to say, I think there'll be a few underwhelming signings that won't get you guys excited. I think that's just the reality of it, because Newcastle United, they're going to have a budget, but they also are going to have to shop really clever. And I think they'll be looking for a few bargains. And I think Doucoure fits that perfectly if the wages are right, if the signing on fee is right. You know, if his wages are huge, you walk away from the deal. If he wants guaranteed first team football, you walk away from the deal. But if you could persuade him to sign for 75, 80,000 pounds a week, and he's happy, not being guaranteed first team football, it makes sense. It really, really does. He's experienced. He's a real strong player. He's got strength about him. That's something Newcastle United are missing when Joe Linton is out of the picture. Something that the Doucoure could definitely offer. Yes, as I mentioned, probably doesn't score enough goals, but then you look at Newcastle United's midfield. Did Bruno, did Tonali, does Joe Linton, do they score enough goals? No, I don't think they do. And that's something they'll be working on. He is versatile as well, is Doucoure. He's played 35 games this season. He's started and played a lot of minutes under David Moyes. He's played 22 as an attacking midfielder, 9 as a central midfielder, and 2 as a defensive midfielder, which shows you there his versatility. And we know that's something Eddie Howe likes. He likes players who can play in several different positions. He doesn't like to pigeonhole a player. And that versatility, I think, will appeal to a lot of teams in the Premier League. I would not be surprised if Doucoure ends up signing for another Premier League team. Will it be Newcastle United? Look, I don't think it will be. I don't think that's where they're looking at. I think his age and his wage and demands might mean Newcastle would look elsewhere. But what I'm saying is, I don't think it'd be the worst idea. I could see him probably though ending up maybe at a Nottingham Forest or a Leeds United. And I get it. You guys watching, listening will be screaming now and saying, we're there. Newcastle United, they're going to be aiming to go far in the Champions League, hopefully. They're going to be aiming maybe even to launch a cheeky little bid for the Premier League title, as well as go far in the domestic cups. They're going to be aiming for big name players who have real ability and talent. And yet you're saying Doucoure, who you're suggesting could be a good sign for Newcastle United, could also sign for Leeds United, who've just come from the Championship. I get it. The difference there is I think he signs for Leeds United. He is first choice. He's in that first team. He signs for Newcastle United. He comes in and it's made known to him that he's backup, that he's depth, that we're looking to take advantage of your experience. We want that passed on down to the likes of Lewis Miley. And also we want to have someone who's reliable to call upon should we need you with 20 minutes to go to shore it up or to maybe change a game or to go into the cups or to cover injured suspensions. Doucoure could do that. Now, people would say, well, we're there. Sean Longstaff's there. Joe Willock's there. Are you saying you'd prefer either those? You're preferring Doucoure over either of those two? And I'd say, do you know what? Yes, I think I would. I think if you could get Doucoure on a free transfer, and again for a decent wage, and then you could look to sell one of Sean Longstaff or Joe Willock, get a decent amount of money, and that money then can be reinvested into the squad. You keep Lewis Miley about. You look at maybe a couple of midfielders down in the youth ranks as well who could have something to offer. I think it could make sense for everyone, really, because I think Newcastle United would cash in on Sean Longstaff, but it might come down to the depth again. But having someone like Doucoure to come in and replace Sean, get a bit of money for Longstaff, all goes towards PSR because it's pure profit. That makes sense to me. But you've got the body already in to replace him, and then you look elsewhere to strengthen as well. But I know it won't go down with everyone very well. You can get into the comments. You can let me know what you're thinking. Let me know your thoughts. But I do think that Doucoure to Newcastle United doesn't sound as daft as a suggestion as it might come across, because his experience, his versatility, and just the fact Newcastle United need to build a squad. That is the bottom line. They need to build a squad that is capable of competing on 4 fronts, and having someone like him coming in lets Eddie Howe do that, and then it lets them spend money in other priority positions, because that's the other thing. A lot of people are saying, well, Newcastle United need a right winger, they need a centre forward, they need a centre back. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think a right winger is top of the priority, striker close second, and then I'd like to see them get a right-sided centre back in. The midfield is not that important, not really, because you have Bruno, Joe Linton, Tonali, Lewis Miley, Sean Longstaff, Joe Willock at the moment. Now, at least one of them is going to go in terms of Willock or Longstaff. Maybe both of them could go. But what it means is with those numbers there, and with the fact that you have Joe Linton, Tonali, and Bruno as a nailed down three when everyone's fit and really on form, there's not a better midfield trio in the Premier League, I don't think. It means you're not going to go out and spend big. You're not going to go out and spend a large part of your budget on someone to come into that midfield three because you already, in my view, have the best midfielder in the Premier League when everyone is fit. And then Lewis Miley coming up behind as well, who's going to be just a fantastic player. So that's where Shotman Clever comes into it. We don't want to spend too much money on a midfielder. We probably do need one, again, to add to the depth. Who can we go and get? Well, with it, Doucoure is on a free. I think it makes sense. I really, really do. But let me know in the comments your thoughts. Like I say, I understand not everyone's going to be on board with it, but I'm intrigued to have the debate and to have the opinion. Of course, the transfer window opens on June the 1st, and then we'll close again as that Club World Cup takes place, and then it will reopen. Hopefully, Newcastle United can get an early signing, because earlier the better. I think it will further boost everyone's spirits. I think there's a lot of attention, a lot of excitement about the transfer window to come, and starting it early, getting a big name to the door, I think will help with that. But I am excited for the summer. I think Eddie Howe's going to get back. I think Newcastle are going to build a real good squad. The only question is, does Doucouré have a role to play in that? Probably won't happen. In fact, I'm likely to stake everything I've got that it won't happen. But if it did happen, I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. I think it could make sense for everyone. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. Really intrigued to hear your viewpoint. Enjoy the rest of the week. Watch out for those 2 episodes that I mentioned, the view from the opposition and the match preview with John Gibson. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.